Interrupt me at any time you want to ask a question. If you don't understand, don't feel like you have to wait till the end. I'm a big fan. I've done a lot of public speaking with middle schoolers, so I'm a big fan of that energy of back and forth. So anytime you have a question. Today's lesson is related to increasing sales. So a lot of the principles that we teach in storytelling can be used in a husband and wife situation. It can be used in a boss to employee situation. It can be used in a preacher to congregation. Anything to move an audience. We believe that storytelling is the key because the sales pitch is dead. For today, it's traditional selling. I have something to sell that's tangible, that is going to be purchased through funds. So this is more focused on selling. Other workshops later this year will be around moving an audience, but today is on like, I have something that costs X and I want to sell it to Y number of people. See what I'm saying?
So you have several workshops that are in a series that I'll follow? So
Kind of. Last month we had our first workshop, yes. It was the buyer's journey. I'm going to highlight the buyer's journey in today. And then next month is on, the title is You Down with the PAAT? Because PAAT is what I teach in the discovery phase of learning about your audience. If we went to a network, I'm assuming you guys all go to networking events. If you went to a networking event and on their close, it told you in words everything about what they need, the conversation would be better, right? Like you would know if it's worth your time in getting to know that person based on your solution and their problem, right? So next month, the PAAT is identifying through questions that you ask where they're at, so you can then in turn tell the right story. Like that's next month, little preview. But for today, the sales pitch is dead. And how many of you guys know Grant Cardone? I'm not a fan because I think he thinks the sales pitch is alive. There's a style of selling that is the sales pitch. And I am revising my book. I did an ebook in 2022 called Don't Be a Son of a Pitch. And I'll never forget, I was having a conversation with a sales trainer, Grant Cardone style. In other words, I'm in this jet and I just closed X number during COVID, and if you're not doing what I'm doing, you suck. That kind of guy. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? You go to a used car salesman and you say you want a red 4-door sedan, and they say, let me show you this blue pickup. Like they're not even listening to what you're saying, right? A sales pitch, just so you know the difference, is a canned presentation that you present to everyone in hopes that it resonates with them, and they say, oh, I need that. That is a sales pitch. And this guy that I was talking to years ago said, Troy, if the sales pitch is dead, what do you do? I said, you sell. And I think his brain exploded. You know the emoji, the exploding? He could not get past what I just said. That is a sales pitch. Like we got back and forth. We started raising our voice. It was awesome. The difference between selling and a sales pitch. Selling is identifying who and what problem the person you're talking to has and their unique challenge. Then determining if your solution fits and continuing the journey or walking away. You know how powerful it is to say, for me anyway, to say, oh, you know what you're asking for? There's a video company down in the valley in Las Vegas that's a much better fit for you. That's true selling. Because I identified in that person where they were. I'm not selling sand in the desert. That's a pitch. So what we're going to talk about is how to incorporate your storytelling to your buyer, where, depending on where they're at in the buyer's journey. So last month, we went over the buyer's journey and we went into greater detail on each stage. But I know everyone here is smart enough to get it right away, right? You don't know you're overweight until your buddy goes, put the Twinkie down. What do you mean? Right? Now I'm aware that I'm overweight, but it doesn't bother me until my pants don't fit. Now it's a little bit of pain, but it's an inconvenient pain until I have heart problems and my doctor says, change your eating habits, right? So now I'm reviewing, what am I going to do? Keto, am I going to go vegetarian? What am I going to do? Lower my sodium? I'm reviewing options. And then I make a decision. Most people, when you go to a networking event, they're giving a story for someone in the review stage. For example, if someone came up and said, Troy, I need video. Perfect. I'm going to ask you 4 questions. What's your timeline? What's your budget? What are your details? And how bad you really need this. But if they're here and I ask them what their budget is on a video and they're unaware they need a video for their business, then it falls flat. But I'm saying the right thing, it's just I'm saying it to a person that's not in the right stage of where my story is. So it doesn't matter the most awesome story that I have, if they're not in the particular stage of that, then it's going to fall flat. So this is what I say a lot. For every 10 buyers you talk to, 2 are going to buy, regardless of your ability to sell or tell a story. They will buy. 2 will buy. 2 are going to say no, regardless of how good you are at storytelling, regardless of how good you are at selling. 2 are going to say no. That middle 6 will only buy from you based on your ability to sell or tell stories. And this is what always happens. Troy, I talk to 10 people every day and I wish 2 were buying. You ever feel that way? But the key difference is I didn't say people. I said buyers. For every 10 buyers you talk to, 2 are going to say yes. 2 are going to say no. And that middle 6 is where you craft your story. So the question is, how do I know if they're a buyer, right? Did anyone think that? How do I know they're a buyer? Well, there's one way you can just pitch everybody, and one of them, you still cast, you might get a bite, but we're going to talk about a more targeted approach. So, some of you are filling out. What does that first page say? Define your buyers. So you guys are you all went to private school, right? Because that's why you jumped ahead. Is that what happened? This will help you in redefining it or defining it. So who is your buyer? In other words, let's get into, and this is in the film, so I'm going to go film. I'm going to jump from film to business throughout this entire thing. What's up, buddy? We're going to write out a character in a movie, and the movie is price to sell, right? It's selling your particular service or product. So who is this character? Are they a middle-aged man? A young female? You know your buyer the best. I don't have any advice on that. But that's what you're looking at. You're going to write out who that person is, what position they're in, and what their level of authority is. Some of you may have an entry point where they're an influencer and not a decision maker, because a decision maker won't talk to anybody. Now, we're going to come up with a core problem in one sentence. Now, just to give some context, when I film clients, usually small business owners, founders, if you will, the exercise I do with them is, in my discovery, I will ask them what problem they solve. And usually the first 3 times they answer, they tell me what they do, even though I didn't ask what they do, right? I said, hey, what problem do you solve? Well, what we do, and we're the best in the valley at it, is we do yada, yada, yada. That's great. I'm so bad. That's awesome. You're the best in the valley. That's great. So what problem do you solve? Well, the problem is that companies don't know we're the best in the valley. Like they always go back to their baby. And our brain is a muscle. So they haven't worked the muscle that is on the other perspective. They've worked on building their solution, right? So again, the example is founders. Founders, I'm a founder myself. We're on a hamster wheel. There's a reason that you don't see an explainer video on boomvidpro.com, my company, because I don't have a Troy to sit down and ask me the questions to get me out of my own hamster wheel. It's the founder life, right? Hashtag founders life. So what I would like for you to do, and let's give this example. When you go to networking events, what's the first question?
What do you do?
And how do you answer it? I do, right? So what we're going to play this game is we're going to answer with the problem is. So when you go to a networking event, what do? You're going to write out the problem is. So write out the problem is on the core problem statement. And as an example, for me with Boom Video, well, the problem is businesses are not generating enough customers. It's a little generic, but that's the first line instead of we do video. Does this have anything to do with videos? There's nothing in there about videos. Video is secondary to Boom Video, believe it or not. Storytelling is priority, and we use video as the vessel to tell the story because video transfers emotion. So it can be quick, it can be, some would say vague, but I like this as mystery. There's a mystery to it, right? Because you always want them kind of leaning in a little bit. So you're giving a one statement that says the problem is, and then insert that problem. And no using AI. Look, Brandon's already on AI for this. Now we're getting to the fun part. Does everyone know Pixar? Yeah. This is heavy movie, but we're going to do it anyway. Does anyone know what the Pixar Pitch is? Has anyone heard of the Pixar Pitch?
Probably, but
Okay. Anyone, now this was in a book, so if the guy was telling the truth, it's the truth. Anyone in Pixar, from janitor to CEO, can present a movie idea. And just so you know, I wrote a book, Don't Be a Son of a Pitch. I'm going into the film industry, and the word pitch is used all the time. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to say this, it is what it is. So in the movie side, it's called the Pixar Pitch. Anyone at Pixar can present their movie idea as long as they do it in this formula. And if you look at this formula, it's called the buyer's journey. I'm sorry, I call it the buyer's journey. It's called the hero's journey in cinema. And think about Luke Skywalker, how he was on the planet. Come on, I gotta have some Star Wars nerds here, right? Yeah. Tatooine?
Which one?
The first, New Hope. New Hope. He's just this kid, lives with his uncle and aunt, right? And what happens? The robot shows up. He's unaware. And a robot shows up. And this really, really attractive woman, who happens to be his sister, we find out later, is saying, help me, Obi-Wan. And Luke is like, is that Ben Kenobi? Goes to Ben Kenobi. What does Ben Kenobi tell him? You need to what? Fight. And Luke, if you remember, says, no. No, that was the first kind of conflict. This is the hero's journey in a nutshell. And then he goes back, and what happens? He goes back to what? His dead aunt and dead uncle, which was a compelling event that sparked him into realizing he's a Jedi and all, and that's the hero's journey in a nutshell. Well, the buyer's journey, and what I teach is we're going to take this foundation and put it into business. Now, I don't want you to go to a networking event and say, once upon a time, a plumber, yada, 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 right? So we've got, here's an example of how Nemo was presented. You guys know Finding Nemo? Mm-hmm. So, and if you guys want these slides, I can send it to you afterwards. Remember the Pixar pitch, once upon a time, ... There was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son, Nemo. Every day, Marlin warned Nemo of the ocean. So the movie's Finding Nemo, but the pitch is about who? It's about Marlin. And that's the beauty of selling, in my opinion, is the characters that are involved. So many of us are in a pitch mindset. We find the decision maker and we just pitch. We don't, the whole universe in their world is a bunch of characters that we need to know about. So, and then we get, what's her name? What is the? Dory. Where's Dory? Is Dory not in here? This is all, I didn't read this well enough. This is all about Marlon. Dory's not in here. So what we're going to do on your second page, we're going to take my pitch-free closing methodology and create your own story structure. So this is what's on your page. Now I'm going to give you Boom's example, not to copy, but just to give you an idea, right, of how you can position this. So the next workshop is, we're going to go third Thursday of the month because it's got TH to it, third Thursday of the month. So, you know, it was a little, thank you, Tom, for laughing. I appreciate that. And PAAT is pain. So when you're getting ready to close a customer, if you don't have these 4 components verified, it is not an opportunity. It is fool's gold. How many people do you manage?
3.
3. How many times they come back? Dude, I had a great rapport, and it's an awesome lead. If they don't know the pain level of who they're talking to, the availability of or authority, like were they the decision maker? If they're not the decision maker, they know who the decision maker is. Availability of funds, do they have money? And timeline, it's not a real deal. But the connection was there, and it was perfect. It's not a real deal.
You said T is time?
It's a lead, yeah. So that's what the next one is. We're going to go into questions related to the pain. How to identify, in the buyer's journey, it's a range of pain from inconvenience to torture. Questions related to availability or authority. Who is the authority? And then availability of funds, and then timeline. It's the delivery of these questions that help you get to where you need to get to. Okay, that was it. Any questions?